we focus on introducing a new way of collaboration between human and machine. And so
Mm-hmm.
I think um, kind of the way that I would want folks to think about this, and the way we certainly think about it in introducing our smart robotic solutions into e-commerce fulfillment centers across the country, is a new way for humans to collaborate with smart robots or these types of new Industry 4.0 machines.
The Industrial Sage Executive Series, sharing the stories behind game-changing executives, their organizations, and insights into today's industry challenges.
Well, hello and welcome to today's Industrial Sage Executive Series interview. I am joined by Marin Chokrav, who is the CEO of Kindred, powered by Ocado. Marin, thank you so much for joining me again on the Industrial Sage Executive Series.
Pleasure to be here, Danny. It's been a while.
It has been a while. A lot has happened since then. So maybe for those who didn't watch the first episode when you were on, and if they haven't, they need to go listen or watch it right now. But for those who aren't familiar with Kindred, tell me a little bit about who you guys are and what you do.
Sure, we're a smart robotics company in the e-commerce fulfillment vertical or space. We were founded in 2014 by a collection of brilliant artificial intelligence and machine learning engineers and scientists. Fast forward to 2017, we productized what today is known as SORT, which is a smart robotics solution, smart robot solution that automates a manual sortation station, or as they're called, put walls in e-com fulfillment centers out across the country. And so I think in the essence of what we do is we utilize artificial intelligence that powers machine vision to singulate, that is, machine vision speak for seeing, an item set, and the items within it distinct and separate from one another. And then we have a patented AutoGrasp technology that identifies where we would pick a particular item to then effect a successful scan and stow. So we essentially automate via smart robotics type, machine vision type solution, manual put walls in e-com fulfillment centers.
Excellent. Well, there's no, I'm sure, lack of challenges or opportunities in the field, in the industry right there, specifically as we look at e-com and what has happened over the last several months. But really another big thing happened, and a big change, since when we had spoken last. I think it was probably, I think it was February, March, or April of 2020. I'm totally forgetting the time.
Perhaps a little bit later than that. I want to say July or so.
Okay.
But yeah, sometime in 2020.
So it wasn't BC, before COVID. It was after. But
that's right.
Certainly there are some things that have happened since then, and there was an acquisition that happened. Tell us about that.
Yeah, extremely exciting. So we closed the acquisition by Ocado Group in December of last year of 2020. An extremely exciting endeavor for the company in ways that it affords us the ability to accelerate our product development, our initiatives. And so we were very much on path to do ambitious things prior to the acquisition, but many of those would have been serial in nature. They would have been sequential. We would have chosen one or two to do at the same time, if that, and then sort of sequence them out in our future. And now, with the backing of the powerhouse that Ocado Group is, we can focus on a few things at a time. And so we have 4 key focal areas for Kindred in front of us, in no particular order. One is to invest in our technology stack, to improve our capabilities, to enhance our capabilities, to handle a variety of items. In other words, to enhance and expand our item set capabilities. It's extremely exciting. Another one that's adjacent to that is we are also focused at the same time on expanding into different market segments and verticals that many of our existing and new customers would find extremely appealing. A third one is, and a very natural one with the acquisition as a multinational conglomerate now, is to look at expanding across the globe. So looking at different geographies. That would have been something that we wouldn't have looked at for years to come on a standalone basis as a startup, as a small smart robotics startup in the space. But today, we're very much actively looking at geographic expansion across the globe. And last but not least, with the growth that we've been experiencing, which I think I should probably note we've been on a 200+% CAGR since inception. Wow. We've more than doubled every year since inception. And so we're tremendously happy and proud of our growth metrics. And so with that growth comes the challenges of scale. And so the fourth aspect at the same time, as I said, is to build an organization of customer success, account management, and just excellence in customer and client service that is data-driven, that is augmentative in helping our customers in their plight for effectiveness and efficiency in their fulfillment centers.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, congratulations, first of all, on
that.
That sounds amazing. One quick question that I'd have on that, was that in the cards, would you say, was that before COVID? Was that a result of COVID? Was it completely, that had nothing to do with it whatsoever?
No, I would say nothing to do with it is the short and simple answer. I think the expanded answer that I am, again, proud of the organization and the brilliance of our team to share is, we had an extremely successful few years behind us. As we've been in commercial operations for the last 4 years, so that's not a lot in established industries and businesses, but it's an eternity in the vertical and the nascent space in which we operate as a smart robotics company. And so, and we've been crushing it for the last 4 years doing so. And so I think 2020 was just yet another year going back in time, pre-acquisition and I guess during COVID. 2020 is an incredibly successful year for Kindred. In the face of adversity with respect to COVID and the pandemic and lockdowns and all of that, when many businesses were sort of buttoning down the hatches and trying to control costs, we adopted an extremely aggressive stance towards the market. We saw an opportunity to really double down on our technology, our expertise, and customer growth, respectively. And we delivered. And so we posted some tremendous growth numbers in 2020. And when that happens, the world notices. And
yes, they do.
And that's just sort of, I think the story. There was nothing contemplative or really a direct correlation with the pandemic itself. Many of these trends and our persistence and progress have been, that was in existence pre-COVID.
Absolutely. Well, that makes sense. And I was just curious about that. It's such a fascinating space, obviously, with all the digital transformation and the technology shift that's happening. Obviously, COVID kind of threw gasoline on the fire, and you're looking at current challenges right now relative to certainly got the supply chain issues, but you also have labor being a very big one, specifically when we're talking about robotics and smart robotics. And as I understand it, that Ocado Group is pretty focused on online grocery, and when it comes to some of these e-com solutions, I was hearing stats that in 2020 that e-com grew by like 40% over that year alone. So it just put a tremendous stress on from a micro fulfillment being a big thing to just general in general with that. Do you see those challenges continuing on in the foreseeable future?
Absolutely. COVID's been, one thing is for certain to give a nod to and an acknowledgement is that COVID's been, now with the hindsight of almost 18 months, 15 months, whatever, something like that, in us living with it. Things are clearing up in terms of what a force it has been, and it's been a massive catalyst in a number of venues. And so one of those is the shift from traditional brick and mortar onto e-commerce. And again, the pandemic's been a massive accelerant and a catalyst to that shift. And so that is one aspect that we certainly think, and from what we've seen so far and where we are today, we think that that's going to persist into the future as that trend is here to stay. Another one is the trend that we've seen pre-COVID, which is to do with what many folks call today labor shortages. I'd like to think of as labor inflation, if you will, outpacing general inflation in some ways or other. And so that trend has been in existence pre-COVID. And again, that's one thing that sort of got boosted and accelerated, and aspects thereof, right? I mean, social distancing and health and safety aspects in the workplace are certainly getting a boost from that recent history of ours.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was reading a stat from I guess recently the conference that was at A3 put on. It was in Memphis. This was a couple of weeks ago on robotics, and there was a particular stat that came out saying, and I can't remember the specific time frame, but I didn't think it was super long, like 5 years or so, where because of the rapid growth with e-com, and again, this was happening before COVID, right? But it just pushed it into more, is that just with the shifting, particularly when we're looking at micro-fulfillment, that there's a projection that there's not enough people really to fulfill the jobs that is going to be created, that shift that is being created. Therefore, when you start looking at these questions that people will pose when it comes to AI, when it comes to robotics, is this taking people's jobs? When you look at some of this data that's coming out, you're saying, well, there's going to be a giant gap. If we keep going down this road, which it kind of seems like we are, that's kind of interesting. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think by and large, I share your sentiments and analysis of that, and the summary that you put forth is fairly accurate from what we observe in our environment. I would add that we focus on introducing a new way of collaboration between human and machine, and so I think kind of the way that I would want folks to think about this, and the way we certainly think about it in introducing our smart robotic solutions into e-commerce fulfillment centers across the country, is a new way for humans to collaborate with smart robots or these types of new Industry 4.0 machines it wide and in general. And so we therefore make while having the same human at fulfilling basically the same set of responsibilities, we add on supervisory aspect to their job. In other words, they now are in charge of typically 3 to 4 robots. So it's important to note for the audience that one human can basically supervise up to 4, sometimes even more robots at a time. And then therefore that triples, quadruples or more the output in terms of throughput and in terms of therefore efficiency into those operations. And at the same time, that collaboration is, dare we say, more fun. We have many instances in our customer sites where folks supervising robots have friendly competitions. They, assign human characteristics and aspects to their fleet, to their mini fleet of robots that they supervise. They call them names. They name them. They run stats against each other in teams. And so I think it's a very new 21st century way of collaborating with machines in a much more involved way than ever before. And that's how we'd like to think of what we bring in.
Absolutely. No, it definitely makes a lot of sense. And I love hearing about just how that interaction, cobots are interacting, really assisting people in their jobs. It's funny, you mentioned that it can be a lot more fun, because the reality of it is a lot of these solutions where you've got super repetitive tasks that, from an ergonomic standpoint to a safety issue, you got issues that this helps to be able to really solve with that. So I think it's just some great solutions. We're going to continue to see more innovation that's coming out I think it's really going to help solve a lot of these challenges. As we are starting to emerge, hopefully, from COVID and the pandemic, and as things we settle into the new normal and whatever that is, obviously we have some short-term challenges. Long-term, what are you thinking? What are you seeing that is going to, I would say, maybe challenges and opportunities? What is here to stay in the long term?
Yeah, in my view, and again, having observed those trends over the last, especially with the catalyst in place in the pandemic, in the face of the pandemic, the trends that are here to stay are the continual shift from brick and mortar onto e-commerce. It's difficult to say where that quote unquote equilibrium would be,
sure.
But I don't think we're there yet. From what we've observed, I think that would be something that would continue to trend, perhaps in a more accelerated fashion in our near to midterm. And it's interesting to put that in perspective, because from the advent of 3.0 and the internet and commerce on the internet 2 decades ago now, and I don't know, 2000 or early 2000s, e-com had only grown pre-COVID, had only grown to teens, high teens, perhaps, depending upon which survey you look at, and in terms of overall volume. And teens would probably in some surveys be generous with respect to total commerce, right? And so just like you pointed out, just in the last year plus, we've seen massive spike in that shift, right? And so I think that's put that shift on a different trajectory and a different vector. And so we think that that's going to continue. Another aspect that's going to continue is the desire to automate with respect to addressing issues to do with efficiency and overall effectiveness, therefore, fulfillment centers. The move, certain players in the industry set the beat, and consumers like it and follow it. And so we all like to get our goods in 24 hours, 48 hours perhaps. And so, it's a constant race to those KPIs, and how do all the folks in the space get as close as possible to those standards. And so effectiveness and efficiency are paramount. And last but not least, probably social distancing would be with us for some time. Dare we say, for a long time.
Sure. Yeah. No. Absolutely. All makes a lot of sense. I was talking with my wife about this actually, just about with the changing and everything. And what I think was interesting, and I guess maybe this is, never thought about it this way, but what's interesting is that, when you go to let's say in grocery, right? That's Ocado that's a big, focus there. We essentially are, you go to shop, you are the pickers. You are literally picking the product, in a distribution facility. But now that's all shifting. And people have, it's interesting to see how, the consumer trends are, where, even now I was hearing, of people just anecdotally. My wife was talking to one of her friends, and she was like, I don't understand why I never did like an Instacart or did it, any of these other things until like recently. And oh my gosh, this was, mind blowing. This totally changed. I'm never going to go back to the grocery store. I'm going to do things this way, or I'm, going to get my groceries from Amazon or what have you. I thought it was kind of interesting that, and maybe this is just my perception. I thought, oh, I thought everybody's doing this. You know, is this not like? You know, but obviously, we're still kind of. Not everyone has necessarily adopted it, but it's kind of interesting when you look at just sort of the different experiences. And I'm curious, you know, in the future, I'm just, you know, if you pull out a crystal ball, do you think that shoppers, and again, I'm not going to hold you to this, but do you think that it's going to be 100%, you know, online at one point where it's, you know, nobody's going into stores anymore, or where do you think it gets to, and then it says, okay, it's going to kind of settle?
Excuse me. It's a great question, and I wish I had that crystal ball, Danny.
We all do, right? I know.
Excuse me. I would say there is an equilibrium. I don't think that everything migrates all of a sudden over a period of time, not all of a sudden, but over a period of time, 100% to online activity. There is an equilibrium there. We still want to corroborate certain aspects of things that we acquire in our lives, whether it's as basic as groceries or as, you know, in apparel or bigger ticket items like appliances and cars and whatnot, right? But in any case, what we ultimately want is a way to corroborate certain aspects of our behavior, and so that corroborative desire, I think, is with us and will persist. The question is what the equilibrium is, and also the question is, in a way of perception. I believe what we determine is somewhat generic, or has evolved to somewhat generic in the need for that corroboration. In other words, you know, a common basket of goods and or services perhaps are going to see a faster migration to online shopping from brick and mortar than some of the other pricier / less more seldom acquired type of goods and services. And so I think perhaps the shorter answer to this question is that there's an equilibrium somewhere. I just don't think that we've necessarily reached it yet. I think there's some growth, probably meaningful growth left for that journey from, you know, traditional in-store to brick and mortar. And it's interesting because a lot of the brick and mortar experiences are also evolving, where there's the hybrid model now of, you know, checking it out online, buying it online, and wanting to go see it and pick it up in store, and maybe do more shopping while you're at, you know, while you're there and you're picking up the items that you definitely needed to buy, which you did online. So there's an interesting hybrid evolving between the two, which is fascinating.
Absolutely, absolutely. And again, trends we were seeing, you know, beforehand, but now obviously even more. You know, I remember going into an REI and looking at a bike on my phone, and then later, this was years ago, and ended up getting, you know, retargeted for that specific product. You know, I'm like, man, wow, they're using my GPS, and, you know, they're retargeting, and they knew the exact product that I was looking at. I mean, it you know, crazy stuff. But we're seeing, to your point, some of that hybrid, and we're gonna continue to see more. I think it's fascinating stuff. I think you have a big challenge, you know, to where are the trends going now? Let's adjust here in the microfilm. Are we going to be on premise, or is it going to be more distribution facilities, or all, you know, all the above, right? So
yeah, but I would just add, if I may, that
please.
Yes, it's a challenge, but it's an incredibly exciting and fun one to have in front of us. We've been extremely fortunate to have focused on e-com fulfillment all along from the inception of our commercial products thereafter. And so that's been an incredibly fortunate aspect. But on the other hand, we chose it, you know, strategically. So there's also that. And look, I think the exciting part here is that we've been a witness and a participating one at that of this migration from brick and mortar to e-com, and we've been with our customers every step of the way, helping them realize that growth in their business, in their online businesses, and efficiencies thereof as well. So that's been incredibly exciting to see, not only obviously to talk about our growth, but our growth really translates into our customers' growth. And so or the other way around, really, I should say. Our customers' growth translated into ours. And so that's been incredibly exciting to see.
Now that's, well, I think we just tapped into a little bit of passion there. I think you got a little excited there. That's great. I love that. No, because, and I love having conversations with, leaders of different organizations, because you can sometimes kind of like pinpoint and see where, and obviously I feel like we hit something there, that it's a thrill. This is you. It sounds like you really like solving these. I would say, instead of look as them as challenges, here are the opportunities. How can we solve
It's absolutely. You're spot on. I'm glad that he came through. It is a passion. I am passionate about. I get extremely passionate and excited about helping our customers grow. This is one of our key values is to constantly obsess about customer experiences. And how to solve pain points for our customers, and so this is critical.
All good. No, it's all good. I think that's it's super exciting. I get super passionate about it as well. I just love solving these problems. There's nothing better than when you see a challenge or an opportunity, and you can say, hey, this is, and you can go help your customer be able to go do that and get those results for them. That's super exciting. That's just, I love it. Especially with, what I think you guys are doing is awesome. I don't have an engineering bone in me, so I can't do that, but and machine learning and AI and robotics and all that stuff, like I have deep appreciation for it, but yeah, you don't want me on that team. So sort of as my sort of last sort of question is actually really targeted really more for you. And that is, as the leader of your organization, what are you doing to stay on top of your game?
More communication. I think it's been incredibly challenging of a time for everyone the last, let's call it 15 months. And so one of the things that I've done to try and stay on top of my game as a leader is to therefore accent on different venues of communication, different ways to bring the team together, to share information, as timely as possible. We live in a very asynchronous in that way world today, as most of the workforce is remote, with few folks going in and out of offices. Effective, timely communication is paramount. So what I've done is instituted different, more frequent check-ins and different types of check-ins with the entire team, whether it's the executive team, whether it's the broader team. For example, we have an every Friday all hands for 15 minutes standing. And if we don't need to talk for 15 minutes and share experiences for the preceding week, we call it short. But there's always a forum to share what happened during the week, highlights, lowlights, no bias, same light, and open up to Q&A. And that's just an example of one thing that we do that we hadn't done previous to the pandemic. And so, I try to over-index on communication and timeliness and transparency.
No, that's great. No, super important, especially now when, like you mentioned, things have changed, things are changing very quickly and rapidly, and where are we? So that's super important. So, Marin, I really appreciate your insights. I really appreciate your time that you've spent with me here in our audience over, at Industrial Sage. For those who would like to check more out about you guys, we can go to kindred.ai. That's correct? All right.
That's
perfect.
correct.
So, I wish you continued success. It's been fun, really kind of following you guys for the last, little bit. I really enjoyed our conversation. I will echo, if, for those who are watching or listening here, to go listen to that first episode. We kind of dove more into Marin, and you've got such an incredible story from how, when you migrated or you immigrated over. And I was just, relooking some of the notes on how you just kind of had to jump in, just all like full. I think you said you're doing a PhD course, and you said every third word you'd have to like read it, go in the dictionary to like what's What are they saying here? I mean,
No PhD. No, it was my Psych 101 in college.
Okay.
It took me 3 hours to read 20 pages. Yeah.
Okay, that's what. So I'm a little fuzzy on that, but
no worries.
But still, I just think I have such a deep appreciation for that. I think we talked about that. Like, my family has somewhat similar experiences, not maybe to the level that you guys have, but I think you have a fascinating story, and
thank you.
We'll continue.
Thank you. I'd also like to use the opportunity to give a shout out to the team in the company. Yes, I'm very proud of my story. It's my story. It's wonderful. But I would say our team is beyond brilliant, and I am so proud of what we've accomplished with this team. And we would have never gotten to where we are without our larger team at large. So big. I just want to use the opportunity to say big thank you to Kindred, our entire team, for working so hard and being as brilliant as you all are. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. That
is awesome, and obviously, what a great, passionate leader, and for your team. Yeah, it's all about the teams, right? So,
yep.
I'm excited to continue to follow you guys, see what you guys do, all the solutions you come up with, and it sounds like the future is very bright. Thank you for having me. We'll do it again. We'll do a follow up here in another year or two or so. We'll
Great.
See. Great.
Looking forward to it.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much. All right. Well, that wraps up today's Industrial Sage Executive Series interview with Marin Chakharov. He is from Kindred Solutions, powered by Ocado. I think I didn't say that at the beginning. So if you are watching this, powered by Ocado. That's all I got for you today. Thank you so much for watching or listening. If you're not subscribed, I highly recommend you get on the email list. Why? Because you're missing out great content like this, to hear from great leaders like Marin, who is talking about how his team is awesome and how they've helped to solve these challenges and how they are continuing to grow. And they've got a really, really great story. So get on the list so you can continue to learn from your peers, and you can just get a pulse on what's going on in the industry. That's all I got for you today. Thanks so much for watching. I'll be back next week with another episode on Industrial Sage.
Thank you for joining us for this week's episode. Get notified every time there's a new episode by signing up for our email newsletters. You can also subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And while you're there, please leave us a review so more industrial professionals can find us. Want us to tell your story? Go to industrialsage.com. This week's episode was produced by Rika Wiersma, filmed and edited by Optimum Productions, and our executive producer is Danny Gonzalez. Thank you for watching Industrial Sage.